Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of NBA Reels. Keeping it real with you, I'm Pranav with Arvind, and today we have a spicy episode for you guys. We're going to be discussing some of the best and worst teams in the NBA, namely the OKC Thunder as well as the Washington Wizards, with their blockbuster trade to acquire Trae Young, who apparently wanted to go there, and
Mm.
OKC's fall from grace as well as their struggles against one notable team, the San Antonio Spurs, as well as a few extra exciting teams which we believe have been having their moment in the spotlight in the NBA. So let's get started. I think we'll get started with the OKC Thunder. So I'll let you kick things off. What do you think about their,
Yes.
great start and then their subsequent bad stretch of games?
Yeah. See, they started the season off with a 24-1 record, which is tied for the greatest single season start in NBA history with the notorious 73-9 Warriors. And since then, they have gone 10-6, which is actually horrible for a team like OKC. And it all started going downhill from one seemingly inconsequential in season tournament game against the Spurs. So the in-season tournament semifinals in the Western Conference was the OKC Thunder versus the San Antonio Spurs, and Wemby dominated, and Spurs came out on top. And when I saw that match, I was like, okay, this is kind of a hard loss for them, and they're not going to take this light. And next time these two teams play, Thunder would definitely have something waiting for Wemby and the others. But to my absolute surprise, the Spurs kept beating them again and again. It didn't matter if it was in San Antonio, it didn't matter if it was in Oklahoma City. Spurs kept winning. And although last night the Thunder came out on top in Oklahoma City, I think the consecutive losses that they had against the Spurs kind of blew up their whole confidence. And any team that does not believe that they're invincible cannot be invincible. In my opinion, when the Thunder started off with their historic season, I believe they knew they were invincible. They didn't think. They knew they were invincible. And after losing in such fashion to the Spurs and even to the Hornets by 27 at home, I feel like their confidence has taken a huge hit. Like we spoke in the previous episode, confidence is the most lethal legal drug that anybody can take, especially if you're a professional athlete. And any dearth of that could definitely hit you, especially if you're a team that has been performing well. So I think it's just a matter of them getting their stride back, but it doesn't seem like they're gonna have like a historic record. I mean, historic season or something, because when they did have their start, they were projected to at least tie or even go past the 73-9 Warriors. So it's kind of um, sad for them as to how they have been playing since.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel I'm going to present a contrarian opinion to that. I feel
Mm-hmm.
that the OKC Thunder are still on a very historic pace. They're just not going to be as good as the 73-9 Warriors or maybe even the 72-10 Bulls, because those two were really historic teams. They
Yeah.
set new records which weren't even close to being touched years and years after the fact. So I think OKC losing three times to the San Antonio Spurs back to back, especially considering that the Spurs are the number two seed in the West, is not very surprising because, um, me for one, I believe Wemby and Chet is not a rivalry. Wemby is clearly the better player, and he is the generational prospect and going to be the perennial all star, all defensive DPOY candidate type player. So, what is more surprising to me is that they lost three straight times. Maybe, I thought it would be 2-2, and maybe the Spurs win back to back, and then OKC wins back to back. Something like that would have been more plausible to me. But then Wemby went God mode, and he came off the bench all three times in their wins. So to me, it's not any cause for concern for OKC because they're still firmly the number one team in the NBA. And the only team that's really close is the Detroit Pistons. And one more thing is that I believe that this started a little earlier when Chris Finch went off on the officiating against OKC. So he was in disbelief as to the calls that SGA was getting. And this has been a recent trend wherein SGA's free throw attempts are down significantly. In their recent 12 games, the team is like scoring 3 to 5 lesser points at the free throw line. So don't you think that that could be a factor as to how the team's recent losses could be explained? Because SGA relies on getting to the free throw line a certain amount of his game, right? They are dependent on SGA to score a lot of their buckets, and a lot of their offense is SGA, if not for the role players. So if the role players are struggling, this could suggest like an over reliance on Shea's shot creation and shot making abilities.
While I agree with you, I do not suspect that this is the reason for their losses of late. Because at the end of the day, if you are like the league MVP and finals MVP, a few no calls should not affect your game this much, especially if there are no calls. Like you can rely on something to, get points and help your team win, but you also need to be intelligent enough to know that if that fails, you can't have no the backup. Like you're telling me the arguably the best player in the league is not getting his foul calls a few times a game, and that's leading to the Thunder losing. I hope that's not the case, because see, he is really good mid-range shooter as well, and yes, he does depend on free throws for a good chunk of his points, but I do not think that's the reason. Although that could,
It's
I mean,
not just the
stricter
offensive
officiating.
end, it's the defensive end too. Don't you think OKC
That's what
gets
I was
off
going
with
to say.
some holes? Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Their defense over the stretch of mediocrity has been horrible, and it's slipped from being like historically elite to barely good. The all the opponents are shooting more efficiently and exploiting their size on the boards when Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein are out, and they're also forcing OKC to play in the half court more often, rather than just pressuring them to take full court defense. And OKC is known for their defense. That's the reason they're the number one team in the West. If the defensive intensity goes down, it's going to be really hard for them to keep teams off the basket. In my opinion, the defense definitely has to get better. And if you remember, even during the finals, Cason Wallace was holding TJ McConnell's hand, and the referee was right there but did not say a word.
Yeah.
So, if you're going to look at stricter officiating as those calls actually being called out, then OKC maybe does not deserve to be that good a team if they were relying on such blatant no calls to bolster their defense. I mean, they need to play a good brand of basketball
Yeah.
and be good at that brand instead of relying on like the referee's not seeing or referee's not noticing or them getting away with their blind spots or something of that sort.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that could be the case as well, because the officiating is a big part of how OKC's games would go, especially in the playoffs, right? You have to be more physical, stuff like that and all does play a huge
Yeah.
factor. So right now I think they've broken out of their slump. They even had a humongous 21-point comeback against the Memphis Grizzlies recently. And it does seem like it's on the up for them. But then they've taken too many losses in the most recent games to have that insane gap from the rest of the teams in the West. So right now, OKC sits at 34-7, with the Spurs 6 games behind at 27-13. So the West is insanely close for the rest of the teams, because the Spurs, Nuggets, and Wolves are at 27 wins, and the Lakers and Rockets are not too far behind with 24 and 23 wins each. So OKC is still in the lead, but you never know. It's a very long season, so they are on the verge of having some collapses to merit some teams actually catching up. So we'll have to see, but I still think that OKC Thunder are the team to beat in the NBA.
Yeah. I think they will stay at the number one spot. Um, when the season ends. And the key angle that we need to look at is if they are just a young contender hitting like a mid-season slump, um, or if there are actually issues that they need to address before the playoffs start. Because ever since 2019, ever since the 2019 NBA champions, um, the defending champions have not made it past the second round come next playoff time. And the most surprising, in my opinion, was the 2024 Celtics not making it to the conference finals last year when the Knicks beat them. I mean, I know Tatum tore his Achilles, but they were not doing any good even when he was on the court. The Knicks went up 2-0 and all that happened, but that was the most surprising team that did not make it to the conference champion that did not make it to the conference finals, in my opinion. So I'm really interested to see if that trend
No, no,
continues.
no, 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 no. Okay, come on, come on. You can't disrespect the Denver Nuggets like that, man. That series against Minnesota where they lost in seven. I think that was the most surprising champion to not go past the second round.
Hmm.
I feel like
See,
that was
they
insane.
they
And they
went
were
to
fully
seven.
healthy.
They went to seven. So by the time game seven came, I was like, okay, anybody could win. But this was not the case. The Knicks went up 2-0 and they were up 3-1 before they won in six.
Yes, but
You got to
then
think
Tatum
about it
went
that
down
way.
in game four, right? So,
Tatum went down game four when they were already down 2-1.
correct. That's
And
they won
and
game
and
three. They won game three, and then they were playing good in game four, but then Tatum went down. I feel
no,
like
the
that's why it's not a
no
big what
no
if
no no no.
because the
If you
Nuggets
remember the
had
game,
their full roster.
yeah, I agree. But if you remember the game in game four, the Celtics were in the lead and the Knicks came back and they were firmly in the lead by the time Tatum went down. I mean, he was fighting for his life. I remember Tatum single-handedly making sure the Celtics gave
Yeah,
fight.
yeah.
So, I mean, I agree. It could have gone anyway. So, Denver Nuggets, true. They looked absolutely unstoppable till Rudy Gobert started hitting fadeaways.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another team. I agree. But moving on from the Thunder, there's another Western Conference team that I did not expect to be in this good of a situation. The Phoenix Suns, led by Devin Booker and Dillon Brooks, two DBs at the forefront. What do you think about this team and how it's built? Because when KD left and when they got in Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks, I did not expect them to be as good as they are right now. And they've actually been fluctuating in the standings table with the Rockets themselves. They've been going up and coming down, so it's kind of been a back and forth depending on the amount of games played. What do you think about Dylan Brooks? Do you think he's misunderstood as like a trash player, and is he proving the haters wrong?
Yeah, so about Dylan Brooks, I feel that he is misunderstood. I feel that he is one of the most hated players in the NBA for good reason. I don't think people will ever truly understand what his game brings to the table unless he's on your team. And I got to see that on full display when he was on the Rockets. So him leaving was a big blow to the Rockets defense and three-point shooting, but for Kevin Durant, you kind of got to make those trades, right? So in my opinion, the Suns are now in the era where sorry, excuse me. The Suns are in that era where they have dynamic guards. They have Jalen Green, they have Dylan Brooks, they have Booker, they have Gillespie, and they have good depth. So they're not in that weird spot with KD where they didn't have a point guard, they didn't have the shooting required to, turn the tide in certain games. So especially with Dylan Brooks, right? This guy is so good because he's averaging a career high this year with Phoenix, and he's, I'm obviously not going to say is the most efficient, and he's like Steph Curry or something like that, but he's still one of the most, you know, needle turning players that the NBA would see. Because right now, I never expected the Suns to be this good in the NBA, bro. I
I
feel
agree.
that losing Kevin Durant is one of the, I would say that could ruin a team like it happened to the Nets. But then the Suns have managed to keep it afloat because Brooks is great on defense. He shoots a ton of threes, even though he doesn't shoot them really efficiently some games. he is also a voice of reason and keeps the team centered across his vocal leadership. He might commit a lot of flagrant fouls. So one of the things is that because of the hate towards Dillon Brooks, he already has like what 10 to 15 technical fouls this season, which is a lot. He's like the second most
Probably,
other
yeah.
than Draymond, I guess. So stuff like this is why I feel he's misunderstood. He is too passionate and involved with the game to like let anything slide. Like you recently saw that one foul he performed on, I forgot who it was on, and then he was just staring from the bench while they were like assessing whether it was a flagrant or not. This is the kind of stuff I
Yeah,
want to see in the NBA. More passion, more energy. That's why the Suns are this good, man.
I agree. And I feel like he's really embraced the villain persona, and both in Houston and now with Phoenix. He's also been, like you mentioned, consistently praised as a really good top tier defender, wing defender, and he's a good shooter, floor spacing shooter, and coaches really love him because he is another voice in the locker room apart from the coach himself. He binds the team together. These are players like Patrick Beverly, Draymond Green, who in their prime were really good team binders, and they're really easy to coach because they are literally what you would expect a winning player to have: the mentality and the way they play, the way they hustle, the way they do not give up, the way they stand up to opponents and everything. This is exactly what every single team needs. And um, Armin Thompson even credited Dillon Brooks for teaching him a lot during his time with the Rockets. And when you get praise from such good young players, it really is a testament to how much of a mentor you were. Although on the court, you're like really a, you know, just a ballsy player who always goes for arguments and quarrels and whatnot. That just shows how much of a good teammate he is. Kind of a toned down version of even Westbrook, I might say, because every single person who's played with Westbrook has praised him for being a great teammate who stands up for their teammates and everything. But when you see his shenanigans on the court, you might be like, "What is he doing? Like, what is all this for? What is he rocking the baby for? He just scored a layup on me." So it's that kind of player. He's that kind of player, and his rivalry with so-called rivalry with LeBron has been really funny. With both of them joining each other, and I saw a meme when LeBron got agitated to Dillon Brooks and how he was shoving him around and everything. He was jawing back after scoring a couple buckets, and when the Lakers took the lead and everything. And meme said, Joakim and Lance Stephenson wish that they got under LeBron's skin like how Dillon Brooks has.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's. And the funniest part is Dillon Brooks is a huge LeBron fan. If you see his tweets from 2012, 13, 14, so on, he's just going on and on about how LeBron's the best player in the league, how his championship was well deserved and about time. So I feel like that's a really good player to have on your team.
Yeah. And one of the most recent wins that the Suns had was against the aforementioned OKC Thunder, which is one of the best games I've seen recently, by the way.
Yes, yes. What a game! Oh my god, that game winner by Devin Booker. It was such a back and forth game, especially in the clutch with both teams taking the lead and whatnot. And Booker just pulled up from way beyond the 3 point line and just drilled it. And, oh my god, that was
Yeah,
an
and
amazing
Dylan
shot.
Brooks hit the shot, go ahead shot before that. So
Yes, step
I
back
don't even
three
know.
on SGA.
Yeah, I think that in this case, this was what really cemented the fact that they could be contenders because they're very dynamic. They don't have a set game plan. All of it hinges on how good the players are on a given night. And this is the kind of fun
Yeah,
culture that I want to see in Phoenix for Devin Booker's sake as well, because Devin Booker's not having a great season shooting from three. And he needs these
yeah,
sorts of complementary players to really get ahead of the curve. So he has a higher winning percentage with Dillon Brooks already than he did with the entirety of Kevin Durant's career in Phoenix. So that's pretty much all I need to say to show the fit
yeah,
over here. So yeah.
yeah. And I'm really eager to see how Jalen Green fits in this whole scenario because we keep forgetting him. He was apparently like touted as the best player in the package, in the trade package that went to Houston. So it's all about situations, differing situations, and how players can adapt to them, right? So I want to see how Jalen Green meshes with these two guards already on the team. And that's going to be a job for the coach to make sure that their roles are evenly distributed and doesn't become a Devin Booker, Bradley Beal situation where they don't know what they're doing and they don't know their roles themselves. And getting Booker the maximum amount of shots has been successful for the Suns. They've been to an NBA Finals trip with him being hyper efficient, albeit they had CP3 back then. So it's just a question of how they can mesh their games with each other. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So moving on, I feel like we'll go out east now because I feel like we've discussed the West too much, and
Yeah.
we don't have a dearth of topics, bro. Because first of all, one of my favorite players who I've mentioned on this podcast a lot of times as being as good, if not better, than Luka Doncic, which I'm gonna get clowned for. I know this, but it's Trae Young, Ice Trae,
Trae
Mister
Young better, as better if not better than Luka Doncic. What are you even saying?
owner of the
You're
Knicks,
in the big 2026, buddy talking about Trae Young being better than Luka Doncic.
owner of the Knicks. Tell me one team Luka owns, please.
The Phoenix Suns.
One time, bro.
Okay, Knicks also he beat them in the playoffs once.
That's because they only
And
faced off once.
yeah, even the Mavericks. I mean, Luka hasn't faced the Suns after.
The Suns have been horrible since, but in my opinion, I feel like what Luka did against the Suns was more impressive, but how Trey did it was also really cool. I mean,
Trey beat them in New York when Julius Randle was their best player. That's all I'm gonna
and
say.
this was the first time they made the playoffs in a couple years also.
Yeah, exactly. So I agree that it was a historic season for him while making the conference finals and everything. But Jalen Brunson was not even on that team for context.
Yeah, yeah, that's because Jalen Brunson was with Luka.
I know.
See, I always do think that Trey's run in that single playoffs run back in 2021 was crazy to say the least because honest to God, his roster, we didn't expect him to go that far with that roster. And since then, the Hawks have never even had half as much playoff success. They've always been like a first round exit.
I would also credit that to the lack of IQ on the Sixers part. You're a number one seed. How can you just let go of making the conference finals with an inexperienced Atlanta team? Like, you took it to game seven and you blew it in game seven at home.
Yeah,
More than crediting the Hawks for that win, I would discredit the Sixers for being incompetent in
yeah,
that playoff run. So
completely agree. But talking about Trey, he got traded. So I don't even know.
apparently he got traded to his preferred trade destination.
I don't believe that for 1 second, bro.
I mean, he's not denied any reports of that either. So I don't know what to believe at this point. And
See,
he
with
seems
Trey,
pretty happy with being in Washington. Like on his very first day, he started like creating handshakes with his teammates and having fun. Washington's a nice place. The Wizards are a terrible team. That's it.
so I think that the Wizards are a good team, okay? I'm not going to say that they don't have potential because the Wizards look solid with like the amount of talent they have at least. Not with like how
Hmm.
they're playing with that said talent, but they have Keyshawn George, they have Alex Sarr, they have Trey Johnson, Cam Whitmore, one of my favorite players from the Rockets at least. Um, Champagne brother, Justin Champagne, and a
Yeah.
few, weird players like Marvin Bagley the third, who doesn't really have much to say in the league per se from now. But I understand why Trey went there. They're a very long team. They have young talent which could blossom. But again, Trey is being sidelined because I don't think the Wizards want to part with their pick this year, right? If Trey plays and somehow they make like the play in or something, because quite literally, the Wizards currently are sitting at 10-28, and that's just like 8 games away from the fucking play-in, bro. What are we doing in the East, man? This is just so stupid. Yeah. But who do you think won the trade? Do you think that Atlanta got a fair haul back for their Trae Young? Dude, this guy has just gotten better year after year. He was close to being assist champ a few years. He's just increased his output every single season. And one season he gets injured and immediately his trade value tanks. In today's NBA, do you think a small guard has much value?
I don't think so. But Trae Young is not just your typical small guard. He is one of the best shooters, one of the best passers, like you mentioned. And he can elevate a team. He is like a milder version of CP3. He can elevate any team because he is a passer and he can facilitate the offense. And once you get the offense going, it's just a question of how the team meshes with each other. And as long as he's the ball handler, the primary ball handler, I think they should be making some noise next season. I predict the Wizards are definitely not in the bottom five and they at least make the play in next season. Because he also has Chris Middleton. So he could act as a pretty good mentor for him and address his gaps from the perspective of an NBA champion himself. So I anticipate their chemistry to be good. And like you mentioned, they have a lot of lob threats on that team, and that is something that Trey has really excelled with. He had John Collins, and you know what he's done with him. And right now,
Capella also.
the Capella, the Hawks still have Onyeka Okongwu, and he's a really good big man. So players like Luca and Trey really excel when they have multiple lob threats on their team. So, with Marvin Bagley's career not looking so good so far, I hope he gets kind of a career boost with Trey operating in full swing next season or sometime this season. I definitely see this as a positive for the Wizards, and seems like something they can turn around. When it
Yeah.
comes to the Hawks, I feel like they saw that they were doing good without Trey, and they've now identified Jalen Johnson as the man on the team. So I think their goal is just to surround him with guards and three indeed wings, and that's what they've done. CJ McCollum is an experienced guard who can facilitate the offense, and Corey Kispert is a good three and D player, and he was a good defender on the Wizards himself.
May I remind you that Trey Young is not just your average small guard. Like you said, he's a four-time All-Star. Right now, the Pelicans have come out and said Trey Murphy is up on the trade block. And I understand why. The Pelicans don't have much trade leverage for him. But the talk around the league is that Trey Murphy would go for a couple first rounders unprotected. And the Hawks got 0 picks for the Trey Young. So that's why I feel like the NBA has shifted in a completely different direction. Even if Trey Young is bona fide, a better basketball player than Trey Murphy, what Trey Murphy brings as a role player, for example, his length, his
Yeah.
athleticism, his ability to be plugged into any lineup and him complementing an offense is more valued currently, or at least in
Yes,
trade
I
talks
agree.
will be more. It's kind of sad because I honestly think CJ McCollum, I had huge hopes for him with the Pelicans because they had Zion, they had Ingram, they had CJ, and it just doesn't seem like CJ McCollum is ever going to reach that potential that we thought he would have on the Blazers. This way, Dame didn't win much with Portland, and I honestly think that this trade is sort of like salary filler. Eventually, they will dump because, like you said, they're embracing the Jalen Johnson era. Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, and I hoped it would be DeAndre Hunter, but they traded him before Trey. But it's going to
Mhm.
probably be somebody else to take that third spot. It's definitely not going to be CJ McCollum. So they just had to get rid of Trey. So I like this for the Hawks. I think this will really help them out. So yeah, that's good.
Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, and Onyeka Okongwu, all three of them have the same alphabet for their first and last names.
You
And
don't
I
think
feel like
Nikhil Alexander Walker or Risa Shea would stay? Maybe those one of those two blossoms.
Alexander Walker has definitely been the most improved player on that team. And see, Risa Shea does not look like a typical number one pick. And sometimes I even forget the fact that he is a number one pick. And that's the funniest part of it.
Yeah,
So I don't see him making that much of an impact, at least this season. I'm not sure about next season. But the three players that I mentioned look like the three best players on that team, most impactful players on that team, at least. So we'll have to see. I feel like Nikhil Alexander Walker came here as a free agent, so he wanted to be here in Atlanta.
yeah,
Looks like he's going to stay for a while.
correct, correct. That's why it's so weird for the Hawks, right? Because they have Porzingis, they have Luke Kennard, they have a lot of these
Yeah.
players who don't seem like they're going to be future mainstays. So
Yeah, they have a lot of good role players, but you need someone who can elevate all the role players themselves. And I'm yet to find that one person on the Hawks.
remember that one game? I think there was that one player, some Czechoslovakian player who kept hitting big shots. Like he made like 8 threes or something against the
Yes.
Clippers.
Yeah.
Krejci, I
I
believe was his name.
Yes. Yes.
Holy shit. They have
He's
really
still
good
yeah.
talent, man.
They're the ideal team to get role players from for the Lakers. But the
Lakers are
problem
just
is
well.
we don't but but the problem is we don't have any substantial value to offer to them. So if they get smart, the Lakers are gonna have to try somewhere else. But if in the scenario that they don't, I hope the Lakers are able to fleece them. But
I don't
speaking
think
of
there's going to be any trades between the Lakers and the Hawks, bro. I'm sorry to
yeah,
break it to you.
but speaking of your traditional franchise guard getting traded, apparently the Memphis Grizzlies are open to shopping Ja Morant, and that's wow. I have no words.
Yeah, I honestly knew this was a move that was going to be coming sometime soon because I remember his locker room comments about go ask the coach, you know, and stuff like that, which seemed like there was a storm brewing underneath the surface. But I don't know, man. Ja Morant just seems too valuable for the Memphis Grizzlies to trade and or even decide to move their franchise in another way around, considering that he is so good, or at least has been so good in the past. Like Zion, I think Ja Morant's career has been derailed by injuries, and that's really sad to see. Which is why they're trying to move him, I believe, because even if he is healthy, they can't risk building around him. Which is why I believe
Yeah,
they've taken this like crazy decision to like try to move on from him. What do you think they have without him though? Do they have the best coach or something? Do they have great players to like make a good culture? I don't know what the move is for the Grizzlies then. Jaren Jackson is not that guy.
definitely not. And if they do end up trading Morant, I don't think they're going to be able to continue with this core to working towards being a contender. Because number one, no free agent voluntarily comes to Memphis, of all places. So this is a franchise that solely has to depend on either trade or drafting. In such a scenario, if you're looking to trade your franchise PG that you've had for 7 years, it's not looking really bright. And while I say this, I don't blame the Grizzlies at all because it seems like the coach has lost Ja, the teammates have lost him, and I saw him um, even arguing with one of his teammates yesterday.
Yeah.
And when you dissociate yourself mentally from the team, it's better that the team does what is in their best interests before you decide to blow something up of your own. And I think that's what the Grizzlies are doing. So, from a team perspective, I understand why they're open to shopping him and why the door is open now. And like you mentioned, he's been injury prone for multiple seasons, and this year has been a career low in terms of efficiency. And it's not looking bright for this team this season or the next either. The team has traded Desmond Bain. They've let go of Dillon Brooks. Like these players were the core of the Memphis Grizzlies team that were the number 2 seed in 2023. So when you slowly disintegrate your players that have been playing well, that have been standing by your franchise PG all these years, it's not gonna do any favors for anyone. And the most surprising thing, or I would say this all started from one point where they fired their coach late into last season, right before the playoffs. Remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like he was a good coach, but at the end of the day, if the team makes a decision, you just kind of have to go with it. I believe it's in the best interests of both Ja and the Grizzlies. They look in different directions because this is not going anywhere.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Very sad, but I have to agree with that take.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's see where he goes. I believe we will definitely discuss it on our next episode if that happens. And another bad trade, I don't want to talk too much about this, okay? Because I feel like the Mavericks have gotten enough shit and they've taken enough for this dumb trade because Anthony Davis is out injured again. And I don't know, man, it just doesn't bode well for him or the Mavericks because now they've fired Nico Harrison.
Yeah.
They've sidelined, they have AD sidelined, and Cooper Flag's development is coming along well, but Cooper Flag or Luka Doncic, the guy who took you to the finals versus a guy who you could have gotten. It just seems like the direction is horrible. Do you think if AD comes back, they will be in playoff contention? Because currently, where are they?
They're see, they're not anywhere close to being contenders right now, but you also have to take into account the fact that AD and Kyrie have played 25 minutes together, not even a
Yeah.
full game. And that seems to be the trend with Kyrie of late. He's not played a lot of minutes with James Harden and KD on the Nets. He didn't, I mean, the one season he actually did play with Doncic from start to finish, they made it to the finals. And the next season, Doncic was traded. So I believe when healthy, Kyrie can definitely be Kyrie, but it's now a question of the whole team being healthy. And when you have Anthony Davis on set team, it's never easy. I feel like, especially compared to his Laker days, AD has put up or put on a lot of weight, and that has made him more injury prone. I think the reason he put on all that mass was to be bulkier to play the center position, and that has completely derailed him from who he is as a player and what his game is. If you look at AD on the Pelicans and AD his first couple seasons on the Lakers, he was really wiry and really nimble, and he could move from right to left, like do Euro steps and whatnot. But that is not the AD we see. We see him posting up, like bullying his way through, and while all that is good, that's just made him injury prone. And when he is already such an injury prone player, making him or doing something that could make him more of the same is not really wise decision in my opinion. That's the reason I think they've had a lot of struggles with just him staying on the floor, and if he is on the floor, how agile he is and how he can be himself. I believe, in my opinion, he should shed a lot of weight and become his 18-19 or 19-20 self. But I've been saying this for like 4 years now, so I don't think it's happening.
Yeah. Age is also a big factor, right? So
Yeah,
we
I
never know.
agree. Yeah.
Moving on, I think we'll have to discuss one of the up and coming teams who have the best record in the NBA over the last 10, 11 games, which is the LA Clippers. And
Up and coming teams.
currently, yeah, I have to say that because they've been absolutely scorching in the last 10 games or so, especially in the stretch where Zubac was out. Weirdly enough, the LA Clippers have been one of the best teams in the NBA. And Kawhi Leonard has been back. Aimbot is in session, as the commentators say, and he's been on a complete tear. And today, All Star voting is going to end, and speculations are that Kawhi is definitely going to be an All Star, which is very well deserved. But since it's in LA this year, I felt like I wanted Harden and Kawhi to be All Stars. But this year, I feel like there's a lot of better cards than Harden. Even though Harden's averaging 26, 8, and 5, I think Harden isn't an All Star this year. And I'm coming from the biggest fan of James Harden. I feel like this isn't the year. What do you think is the biggest cause for the Clippers to, be back and, perform as well as they used to, especially after their, you know, horrible, horrible start, which was 5-16 and 2-13 in November?
The Clippers are 8-2 in their last 10 games. And I believe, I don't know how this is even making sense or how it's even coming out of my mouth right now, but looks like CP3 was doing something because clearly that wasn't working for them. But once they did get rid of CP3, they've been on an absolute tear. And I believe with Zubac's out, Brook Lopez has been a really positive sign for them. And that was not something I really expected at all because of Brook's age. But that, again, is the sign of a true veteran, right? Like gelling with your teammates, making sure everyone's on the same page. With Kawhi not being much of a vocal person, although he's arguably the best player on the team, I feel like James Harden and Brook Lopez have taken the reins and really made sure that everyone's on their best to end the season. And Ty Lue said we're at least looking for a 35-20 finish to end the season. And that looks pretty doable at this point. Right now, the Clippers sit at number 11 in the Western Conference. Do you think they would be able to make it to either seed 7 or 8?
So I feel like the Clippers can definitely make a play-in push. I'm not very sure about a playoff push because currently they've already overtaken the Mavericks, who, as we know, they've been like horrible in the last 10. There's 4-6. Um, to overtake the Grizzlies, I feel like it would take the Grizzlies losing, which I do think can happen if they do trade Ja, as we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
So I think it's likely that the Clippers end up definitely as a 9 or 10 seed, because beyond that is going to be very hard. You'd require a lot of things to go right for the Clippers and wrong for other NBA teams. So I feel a plain appearance is still a good, position to be, considering their horrible start to the season. And with Kawhi and Harden turning it up and the depth finally showing up, Kobe Sanders and players like that who really push the team in a meaningful sense. Considering now that Zubac is back as well, that they have some more depth. If they don't trade him, I feel like they will trade him because they are expected to play Brook Lopez a lot more now that, you know, they figured out how to use Collins and Lopez and the entire team's offense to a better degree. So I'm very happy to see the Clippers be this way, man. I feel like the Clippers being bad was bad for the NBA, especially considering that OKC has their pick. And now I
Yeah,
have
I
some
agree.
hope. Now I really do have some hope. And Kawhi, oh my God, that 55-point game, holy shit. One of the best games I've seen. That he couldn't miss. It was insane shot making ability. And across the past few games, Kawhi, he's been playing through an ankle injury apparently. And he's just been on a tear. He's just been absolutely amazing. And I'm happy to see this for him, his career, and I want to see how far the LA Clippers can go. Even if they do come just into the plane, right? I feel like they do stand a chance at taking OKC to maybe 6 or 7. You never know.
Yes. And the most recent game that really astounded me was against the Pistons, where they came back to win the game.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
with the Pistons being the number one seed in the East, they're not any. I mean, they're not the Pistons from 2 seasons ago. So the major role in that game was played by John Collins, who was a plus 19, and he is one of my favorite players to watch. Who I wished came to the Lakers 3 seasons ago because of no, he's like almost a 40% 3 point shooter. When he was on the Hawks, he was a 40% 3 point shooter. He
yeah,
was a lob threat. And how often do you get a lob threat who's shooting 40% from three? So I believe his role from going to being on the Jazz to right now being on the Clippers, I think he's really identified his role well. And he's been a really good positive addition for the Clippers in recent games. And he's a person who has playoff experience as well. Players like him, Zubaks, Bogdanovic, these are solid role players who can create a lot of impact come playoff time. And it's up to, I think, Kawhi and Harden to make sure that they are on their A games as well if they want to make some noise in the playoffs, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah. Losing Bradley Beal was, I feel, the biggest blow for this team because they wanted him to replace Powell, as we discussed earlier on the podcast, but that might be the significant blow, which is why they should make a trade because get Bradley Beal's contract off this team, man. He just is a cancer to the locker room, and I feel like he's just a useless fucking dead weight at this point. Just get him off, let him figure it out after whichever team he gets traded to. We don't care. As someone who's looking for the best from the LA Clippers because I don't want OKC to get a pick. I would like the playoffs to be more exciting, especially every single season the Clippers are there. It's good because I want to see Kawhi also ball out in the playoffs. Let's see. Let's see what they
Yeah,
do.
yeah, we'll see. And I think the next topic that I wanted to discuss was the rise of Boston in the Eastern Conference. And they did start the season with a shaky 5-7 start, but since then they have gone 18-5, and they right now sit at number 3 in the East. And I feel like they, how do I say this? Jaylen Brown has been making up for Tatum's absence in ways I did not imagine. And although he's had like his own struggles this season, in terms of recognition and shooting and whatnot, I feel like just as a player carrying the Celtics, the expectations on him were mixed. They were both high and low. Like high in the sense that okay, he's a Finals MVP, he should be able to carry a team, but low
Yeah,
in the sense that he's not as good as Tatum. He's not going to be able to do shit. And he's been really good at balancing both and leading the Celtics along with Derek White. So the Celtics, do I think they will make noise in the playoffs? No. Yes, I don't think they can. I do
that's a
not
very
believe they
hot
can
take.
make. I do not believe they can make it out of the East.
If Tatum is back,
Tatum is not going to be back.
apparently he might.
He shouldn't, but if he is going to, that's on him. But I don't think he's going to be able to. He needs a lot of time. See, there's a reason the playoffs are after 82 games. You need players to get acclimatized with their teams, with themselves, with their form, with their athleticism, especially if you're returning after an Achilles. We know that they're going to be kind of ginger in how they're walking and running and moving around the court. They'll have to be extremely careful while playing defense. They'll have to be extremely careful while going for steals, like going for rebounds. It's a very gingerly spot to be in. So if he comes back, he shouldn't. But if he does, I still don't think they're making it out of the East.
That's a really hot take, I feel. But yeah, absolutely right about Jaylen Brown. I feel like, this season he's definitely all NBA first team. He's a lock for the All Star. He's averaging a career high in points per game. And the rest of the team has been complimenting him in ways that, like you said, I mean, we never anticipated this sort of like push from the Celtics, especially without Tatum, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like right now, because they're the third seed and they have the number two defense in the NBA as a whole, I feel like the Celtics do have a chance to make a push in the playoffs, depending on which team they face. I mean, currently it's obviously Heat and Hawks in the play-in, or the annual play-in teams.
Yeah.
Celtics versus Heat without Tatum, and the Heat don't have Jimmy Butler now, would feed families. I would definitely tune in for that kind of playoff series. You never know who's going to win.
Yeah. The Heat don't have Butler and the Celtics don't have Tatum.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, I definitely think the Heat are not going to be the Celtics. But it's going to be interesting to see for sure. And I think with the Pistons, Knicks, and Celtics being top three, do you think there's going to be an interchange in the order at the end of the season?
I am hoping that the Pistons finish number one, because this has been their comeback season, especially after that season of mediocrity and the horrible season as we discussed in the previous one. I
Yeah.
don't think that the Pistons are going to come off the number one spot, but I do think the Knicks and Celtics could alternate spots with each other, especially if the Knicks have like a run of bad form as they're currently having. They're just 5-5 in their last 10. So anything could happen. We'll see. I hope it doesn't happen. I want the Knicks to finish the numbers two as the number two seed. So let's see.
Yeah. The Celtics have always been good with how deep they are. Um, like even their eighth man can make a lot of noise, and that's on a consistent basis, not just one night where random NBA players go off. So I would definitely bank into that when the playoffs start. Um, Pit benches against benches and see who comes out on top. But I think the Celtics were really exposed last season against the Knicks. And after the Knicks fired coach Thibodeau, we got reports of him going to the Celtics practice facility and letting them know what the Knicks did differently to beat them in the playoffs. That was funny. I think Joe Mazzulla is a coach who actually takes all that seriously, and I expect him to implement changes. We'll see. We'll see how they fare come playoff time. But I think that's all we had for this episode. Um, we will be back with the next one very soon to discuss more updates, especially about the All Star game, rosters, and so on. But until then, we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.